The photo was supposed to be ordinary, just a family snapshot hung neatly on the wall. But when my eyes landed on it, my entire body went cold. Everyone was there. Dad with his stiff, practiced smile, my sister in her favorite pink dress, my brother tugging at his tie. Even the dog was sitting obediently near Dad's leg. But my face was smeared over with thick black ink. Not a smudge, not an accident, it was deliberate. Someone had taken a pen, pressed down hard and scrubbed me out like I was a mistake. I gasped, stepping closer, my heart pounding in my throat. "Mom," I stammered, my finger trembling as I pointed. Why does the photo look like that?" She was folding laundry on the couch. Without even glancing at me, she said in that sharp, dismissive tone that always cut through my skin, "It looks better this way. Better this way." The words hung in the air like a knife. Please subscribe to our channel and tell me in comments from where are you watching this video. I looked again at the photo. At the proud way my father's hand rested on my sister's shoulder. At the way my brother was tilted toward Mom, laughing as if he belonged. And then there was me, an ugly void, ink bleeding where my smile should have been. My siblings snickered behind me. "Guess the camera finally figured you don't fit," my sister teased, her voice dripping with cruelty. Dad didn't say a word. He didn't even look up from his paper. And that silence was worse than all the laughter. I wanted to scream, to rip the photo off the wall and tear it apart. But my hands froze. My throat locked. Because deep down I realized something I wasn't ready to admit. Maybe they'd been erasing me for years, and I just hadn't noticed until now. That night I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying the scene over and over. My mother's smirk. My sister's laugh. The silence that swallowed me whole. And in the dark, one thought echoed louder than all the rest. If they wanted me invisible, I'd show them what invisibility really meant. That night, the house was filled with the sound of my father's booming laughter. He was on the couch, beer in hand, retelling the story of how he fixed the family photo. "Took a pen, one stroke, and suddenly it looked perfect," he said, slapping his knee. My mother chimed in, "I told you it's cleaner that way. No one wants to see a mistake in the middle of a beautiful wall." And then they both looked at me like I was the mistake they were celebrating removing. The laughter didn't end. It bled into everything. At breakfast, my brother mocked me by scribbling over my face on the cereal box mascot. At school pickup, my sister told her friends, "That's just our extra. Mom keeps her around like an old piece of furniture." Even the neighbors had started to join in. Mrs. Green from across the street waved and said, "Oh, so that's your other daughter? I never knew you had one." My mother smiled proudly. "Some things aren't worth introducing." It was like a performance. Everyone had a role, and mine was to sit silently, a ghost walking through my own house. But ghosts have ears. Ghosts remember. One evening I overheard them in the kitchen. Dad was talking about a new family portrait session booked for next month. "This time," he said, "let's not even bring her. Why waste money on someone who's already been erased?" My mother agreed without hesitation. "Exactly. We'll crop her out in real life this time." I stood in the hallway, my nails digging into my palms until the skin broke. They weren't satisfied with erasing me from ink and albums. They wanted to erase me from living memory, from the narrative of their lives. But then something shifted inside me. For years I had begged for scraps of recognition, a word of kindness, a seat at the table that wasn't laced with mockery. But that night, while they planned my erasure, I realized something that chilled me to the bone. They had no idea what they were creating. By trying to make me invisible, they had made me sharper, more watchful, more dangerous. The next morning, when Dad announced the portrait session in front of the family, I smiled for the first time in weeks. He thought it was submission. It wasn't. It was a seed of something else. At school, I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror. My face looked different, not softer, not weaker, but colder. Stronger. I whispered to myself, if they want me gone, I'll give them something they can't forget. Something no ink can blur, no album can burn. From that moment, every laugh, every cruel word, every erased image stopped cutting me down. Instead, it piled into me like bricks, building something dangerous and deliberate. By the time the next family event came, a dinner where relatives gathered, all eager to admire my siblings, I had already begun planning. I watched them pose, smile, and shine while I was shoved into the background like a prop. But I wasn't a prop anymore. I was the storm outside the window, quiet for now but waiting. Because ghosts don't stay silent forever. The night of the family dinner was the night everything cracked open. The long table stretched across the dining room. Candles lit, dishes steaming, laughter bouncing off the walls. Every chair was filled except mine. They hadn't even bothered to put out a plate. "Stand by the wall," my mother said, waving her hand like I was a waitress. "We don't want the photo ruined with unnecessary extras." My cousins giggled and my uncle raised his glass. "To the beautiful family." Their eyes slid over me as if I was just air. I stayed silent, my hands clenched so tightly that my nails dug crescents into my palms. Then came the moment they all had been waiting for, the group photo. The photographer raised his camera. My siblings gathered in front of our parents, perfectly posed, glowing under the chandelier. "Closer, smile big," the photographer said. My mother laughed and whispered loudly enough for me to hear. "Finally, a photo that looks right." I don't know what snapped first, the glass in my heart or the silence in my throat. But I moved. I walked straight into the frame between them and stood there. Not smiling, not shrinking, but staring directly into the lens. The photographer hesitated, glancing nervously at my father. "What the hell are you doing?" Dad hissed. He grabbed my arm, his grip bruising, but I didn't flinch. "I live here. I exist. And you'll never erase me again." My voice was louder than I intended. The room froze. Forks clattered against plates, a glass tipped over. My aunt gasped. My brother muttered, "Oh, here she goes again." But I didn't stop. I turned to the wall, where the family photo with my blurred face still hung. "You think ink makes me disappear? You think laughter erases blood? No. Every mark you made just burned me deeper into this house. And one day when people look back, they won't remember your fake smiles. They'll remember the girl you tried to erase, because she's the only one with the courage to stand here and not pretend." The silence that followed was sharp. My mother's face went pale. Her hand trembled as she reached for her glass. My father's jaw clenched, rage boiling behind his eyes. My siblings shifted uncomfortably, their laughter gone. Then I did something that shocked even me. I took the photo frame off the wall, the one where they'd scribbled me out. I lifted it for everyone to see. "This is your legacy." A family too ashamed of their own blood that they turned her into a ghost. But ghosts don't stay quiet forever. And with that, I slammed it down on the table, glass shattering across the plates, scattering into their food. Gasps erupted. The photographer backed toward the door. My cousins stared wide-eyed. My uncle muttered something about kids these days. But I didn't care. For the first time, all eyes were on me. Not as a mistake, not as a shadow, but as something they couldn't ignore. My father barked, "Get out!" His voice thundered, but it wavered in a way I hadn't heard before. My mother's lips trembled. My siblings wouldn't meet my eyes. I didn't move. Instead, I leaned forward, close enough for my words to strike like daggers. "You wanted me invisible. You wanted me gone. But I'm not going anywhere. I will be the stain on every picture you take, the shadow in every smile, the reminder that you failed at your own blood. You tried to erase me, but you've only written me louder." And then I turned and walked out of that room, leaving them in silence, shards of glass glittering like truth on the table. The morning after I shattered that photo frame, the house felt different. Quieter, heavier. I expected to find my bags already packed by the door, but instead the broken glass was still scattered across the dining table, untouched, like a crime scene they were too afraid to clean. For the first time I realized something: they weren't in control anymore. They could scream, erase, and shove me aside, but they couldn't undo the moment when I forced myself into their picture. They couldn't undo the way the photographer's camera had clicked, capturing me standing among them, unblurred, undeniable. Days passed, and the silence from my family grew unbearable. No one spoke to me. No one looked at me. But their avoidance was its own confession. They were rattled. And that's when my plan began. I started gathering every photograph in the house. Old albums, framed pictures, even the dusty boxes in the attic. For years my face had been cut out, blurred, scratched away. But I didn't destroy them. I restored them. I went to a print shop and reprinted the originals I had secretly kept from school, from friends, from neighbors. Piece by piece, I replaced their lies with truth. One evening, when they all gathered in the living room, I struck. The television flickered, and suddenly the screen wasn't playing their favorite show. It was playing a slideshow of photos. My photos. Childhood birthdays where I stood in the corner holding a balloon. School events where I smiled nervously at the camera. Family dinners where I had been cropped out but now was whole again. Image after image rolled on, undeniable proof that I was there, that I had always been there. My mother gasped. My sister whispered, "Where did she get those?" My father's face turned crimson. I stepped into the room, remote in hand. "You tried to erase me. But every photo, every cut, every blur just made me stronger. You thought you could make me invisible. Now look, this is the truth you can't bury," they shouted. My father lunged forward, but I stood my ground. "Go ahead," I said calmly. "Break the TV. Smash every frame. But you can't erase what people already know. Neighbors saw me at those birthdays. Teachers saw me in those classes. I am part of this family whether you choke on it or not. And the more you fight, the louder my presence becomes." Silence fell again. Not the silence of control, but of defeat. That night I didn't pack my things. I didn't run. Instead, I hung my restored photos all around the house, on walls, in hallways, on the fridge. In every corner where they had once tried to erase me, my face stared back, bold and undeniable. Please subscribe to our channel and tell me in comments from where are you watching this video. The next morning I sat at the kitchen table calmly sipping coffee. My father walked in, eyes darting across the photos. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. My mother avoided my gaze, trembling as she reached for a cup. My siblings shuffled awkwardly, unable to pretend anymore. I looked at each of them, steady and unafraid. "You made me invisible. Now I'll make sure you see me everywhere you go. In every room, every wall, every memory. I am the daughter you tried to erase, but I will never disappear." And from that day forward, they couldn't escape me. My face was no longer a ghost in their home. It was the truth carved into every wall, louder than their lies, permanent as blood. For the first time, I wasn't the invisible daughter. I was the daughter they could never forget.